everyone. Terrence Clay, Business Analyst, Smart Group.
I'm Summer Tightly. I'm quality analyst.
I'm the one guy from Scrum Master.
Hi, I'm Jeff. I'm one of the developers.
I am Kevin Williams, the developer.
And we are Digital Control. Right.
So let's get it started. Let's talk about the agenda today. On our agenda, we're going to be covering why we are here, our mission, our vision, walk through the application, demonstration, demonstration of QA work, and facility features. Why we are here? Well, we're here because we want to give a solution to TTX respond to a mobile utility problem. Our mission is to design a modern, professional web page, develop an information system for our clients. Our vision is to build upon innovation and dedication and resilience. Walk through approval page first. We're going to talk more about the course status page, my course history page. Talk more about the request form and functionalities. Our demonstration, we have to Mike next.
Hi, I'm the one Scrum Master. So, as a TTX administrator, I wanted to, as soon as I go in, I wanted to check my waiting for approvals to see what current employees are trying to request on courses. As you see, we made the names dynamic. So, can you please click on Jacqueline? As you click on Jacqueline, I'm able to go to her personal information and see when she started, see when she ended her day, where's the location, the cost. Also, it will have the vendor information underneath. And at least with it, we have the approve me and the reject button into the person's information. So can you click reject this, please? When you reject, we give a confirm. So you'll be able to, if you made a mistake and maybe didn't want to click reject and you wanted to click approve, we give you the option to confirm it if you wanted to really reject. So just on confirm. And can you go to status? Now as a TTX administrator, I wanted to go to status. I wanted to see what different employees got done, what courses they have taken, as well as how much it costs, who approved it, what upper management approved it. So as you see, you got the courses listed on here, you have the costs listed on here, and on the right side you will have the Y is for yes for approval, P is for pending, and R is for reject. Now, when I go to my course history, now sometimes as an administrator, as myself, I might take on courses. I might take on stuff that I might have forgotten. I wanted to know if I took that course already and don't want to take it over twice. So in my course, I'm showing that what courses that I took in, what start date I took it, and what end date that I took it. So up here, that's what you'll see on my course history. Now I'm going to go to request training, and I'm going to transfer it to my colleague, Kevin Williams.
Thanks, Dewan. So here we have our developed training request form. We made it as simple and agile as possible. We want it to be simple for users. So as Jeff is demonstrating how our requester will log on to this page and be able to fill in the information starting from the training request number, course type, start date, location, course name, and end date. And then we have the cost. And we added a hidden feature at the bottom here that allows you to show the vendor information. So as a requester, you're going to of course fill out your training request information with the vendor when we hit it. And then when the vendor is logged in, you'll be able to show the vendor information. And with the same process, fill in fields. Of course, the forward to accounting button. Yes and no. And then also the submit button.
So to talk a little bit more about the functionality, if we go back to the home page, so these things are pulling dynamically. They're not static. They're not hard coded in. So for example, we looked at Jacqueline. If I look at Alan, it dynamically switches to his information. So it doesn't matter how many people are in the pending queue. it will always dynamically switch on the same page, so there's no reload time. So it cuts down on sort of some of the performance issues. And moving forward, going to go ahead and talk about our testing strategy with my colleague, Samret.
Thank you, Dave. I just want to say some about functionality test that we did of the applications, and then the strategy that we used to test. We did over 35 tests. We completed that, and then we tested with the variety of devices and operating systems. We also did usability testing. This is some test cases that shows from 3 pages from the course history page, request training page, and waiting approval page. I just want to say some about the failed ones and the pass phases. From the failed ones, I'm going to start from the request training page. When we try to submit, when the user tried to submit the field information, it successfully passed, but when the users try to submit without filling the necessary information like course type and course names, it attempts to still to submit. But what we were expecting was to refuse and to show alerts that to show the blank space which is not filled. The other ones that I want to go through is the waiting approval page. The waiting approval page, it worked good. When the user wants to approve the requester and clicks the requester names, we successfully can pull out to the other page, which shows all the information of the employees filled out. But the failed ones, actually we did it yesterday night, and then it was failed before. Now we successfully did it. We can reject and approve the button. Looks like this. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. If you have any ideas, questions.
So you showed us a view which is the mobile.
That's correct.
And is that the only view?
No, the view is responsive to both desktop and tablet.
How would it look when I go?
Sure. So this is how the desktop version would look as you load in. If you were to reject. The status page. Since Scott, you didn't have any training in there, we went ahead and emulated what it would look like if you actually had training in there. And then finally, the requester form with vendor information. And then if you submit, one of the bugs that's still sorted there is it still attempts to submit. It doesn't actually submit. It gets to the database and stops. We had a lot of fun, interesting bugs with this. JavaScript is really terrible with time and timestamps, so we had to sort of uniquely figure out, well, how can we convert the timestamps back into normal time dates? So, for example, on the home page, the dates are being generated dynamically. So, since they're not hard-coded in, we had, like, for example, the end date, we had to come up with a solution for that. So that was probably one of the more difficult things. JavaScript and timestamps, they just don't work together.
Can you show me the mobile version of the status page?
Sure.
So here it's scroll right, right?
Say again?
So it's a scrolling page.
Right. You scroll right to see the stuff that's been approved over.
What does the requester see when the Scout Editor accepts or rejects my training request? Who shows me that?
Sure. So with the requester, obviously they wouldn't have the waiting for approval page. They wouldn't have access to that. They would simply have access to the status, the request for training, and the My Course History page. So this is what they would see. They would see it being kind of queued up. If Scott had not gotten to it yet, it would simply be pending. Obviously, this is since this is from the approver view. There's a lot more here, but it was from Alan's view. It would just have these four, and you would then look to see where it's at in the approval process.
What's the default sorter?
The default sorter is group by name.
So if I'm a requester and I'm just looking at my stuff,
It would just be your stuff.
what would my stuff be sorted by? Sorted by form, sorted by requested date, approval
Yeah,
status?
so dates have priority. If you are the requester, internally built in behind the scenes, it would by your most recent request would be on top. Once that has gone through the process or something else is going through the process, it would go away into your history.
So here we're not showing the date.
No. We don't have the date shown on the status page. No.
You talked about JavaScript. Can you speak a little more to your technical solution, your architecture and architecture?
Sure. So one of the tremendous challenges we're trying to figure out, how do I generate dynamic rows? So how do I generate these things? And then how do I bind things to make sure that when I'm clicking on the links themselves, for example, here, Alan and Jacqueline, how do I make these things unique and not static? So what we ended up having to do is use jQuery to build functions. In the Node.js, we went ahead and defined our routes, and then we called back the variable here. And what this does is, as soon as we click Alan, Alan is linked to his request number. So every row that's being populated are being populated by the request numbers that are working in the background. So when you click on his link, this page sends that request number to a landing page, which then our page that pops up takes it, identifies it, and then displays the information based on the request number. So we used multiple tables. We used a names table in which your name is your key, and then we used a table for the request number, which was the key for the main sort of hub of information. As far as JavaScript, as you can see, when I click on Alan, the page doesn't actually, it doesn't load, right? All we're doing is we're hiding a table, and this table is embedded in the background, waiting for a click. And when the click happens, the JavaScript gets called, the jQuery gets called, and then it populates the dynamic information based on who you click.
What's the format of the data between the page and Node.js?
JSON. So, so everything gets sent out as JSON, gets read by the Node.js, then gets converted into a SQL statement, which then hits the database and updates the database, and vice versa. Pull it out the same way. Questions, comments, concerns? I just want to say thank you guys for letting us participate in this. This has been a very challenging experience, but it's been an awesome experience. We learned so much in such a short amount of time, and I can't give you enough gratitude for how life-changing